Well, we're now on the promenade next to the tram track, because it's not only people, of course, that are haunted here, but also some of the trams. The famous trams here in Blackpool are haunted. There were three specific stories that we know of. The first one relates to car 712, which has now been sent to Crouch, so we won't be getting any hauntings here in Blackpool from it anymore, but Crouch in Derbyshire might be, at the Tramway Museum. And the other one is 722, which unfortunately last year in November of 2009 was cut up after an accident. It was deemed to be surplus to requirements. Whether the haunting had any bearing on whether they cut it up or not is another matter, but certainly 722 is no longer with us. It's the only one that has been cut up so far, and is also the one that was haunted along with 712. Mainly relating to, both stories relate to passengers that had died on board. One was a gentleman, one was a young girl, apparently, both in the sort of 50s and 60s era, and basically how they manifested themselves usually was blinds changing, bells ringing, lights going on and off, footsteps on the top deck when there was no one up there. In fact, even when the top deck was closed, you can't cordon off the top deck if there's not enough conductors to operate both decks safely, and that sort of thing. The third story relates to something that isn't so much seen as heard. The Claremont tram stop, which is sort of north of here, up towards the Ginn area, many times during the season, and even on the off-season to be fair, somebody can be stood up at the Claremont tram stop waiting to go into town, and the tram is heard, even felt as a waft of wind goes past, but no actual car is there. So then obviously somebody would ring up the depot saying, "Oh, your tram's just gone past us, I want to report the driver," and of course, not surprisingly, the inspector at the other end will say, "Well, what number was the tram, so then we can make sure we've got the right gentleman," and to tell him off. And then of course they have to say, "Well, actually, we didn't see it." And usually, if the inspector's been there long enough to know about this story, they will usually then reply, "Oh, I take it you're up at the Claremont then, sir?" And to which the guy will go, "Yeah, how did you know that?" "Oh, we just know, sir, thank you very much." And it's just a story that, particular to that stop, a tram is heard and felt. And even on occasions, apparently, it's been said that if there's water in the tram track, as in it's raining, they actually see it sort of sluice out as the tram goes past. So everything is there except the physical, visible tram car. Which one it is and how it relates to where it does just at that stop, or we don't know. But that happens many, many times over a season. And so it's become sort of second nature to the inspectors down at the depot to say, "Oh, well, we know where you are then, sir." The last thing before we get back to the town hall relates to the actual sea itself. In 1554, this coast was hit by a tsunami, every bit as powerful and as devastating as the one in Boxing Day about 5 years ago in the South Seas. Basically 2 miles of coastline from where we are, the sea used to be 2 miles further out, was destroyed in one night. September the 17th, 1554 is the date most people settle on. There were 3 villages that were lost that night, 12 between Carlisle and Southport, but 3 specifically on this peninsula. One is called Singleton Thorpe, which was up at Rossall, or near Rossall School, Rossall Point, towards Fleetwood. A new one that's only recently come to light, which is called Wadham Thorpe, which was allegedly near the Ginn, and also one down at St Anne's called Kilgrimel. Nobody survived Kilgrimel's inundation, neither did anyone from Wadham Thorpe, but 4 people allegedly survived from Singleton Thorpe and set up what is now Singleton, 7 miles inland, to make sure that it could never happen again. Well, that was the theory anyway. And the clue is in the name, because it's actually Shingleton, or the ton or village. Doesn't mean town, it means village in Norse, on the Shingle Beach. Well, of course, Singleton, if anyone knows it, which is 7 miles inland, is nowhere near a Shingle Beach. It is purely the people using the name and dropping the part of the name of the village, Thorpe, to make the new town or new village of Singleton, which still survives to this day. The ghost story perhaps that relates to that is most often said by the fishermen at Fleetwood, because they will hear, allegedly, the bells of Singleton Thorpe Church under the waves, and as soon as that happens they turn back to port immediately. Even if all the fish in the world are just over the horizon, they will come immediately back into port and will not go back out for the rest of that day. That happens many, many times still. Whether a church would survive for 500 years intact with a bell in its tower under the waves is perhaps debatable, but certainly on a neap tide, which is the lowest tide of the year in February usually, you can find the road and walk on it. You have to be careful with the tides, of course, because it will come straight back in. But I know people who have actually walked on the road, and there is a Roman cobbled road that just leads straight out into the sea to the fabled village of Singleton Thorpe.